Hi, everybody.
No, your sound's not on.
Oh, it is now. Is it not on?
Okay, yes, it is.
Okay.
Yep, it is.
We're just checking to make sure we're okay here.
It's my fault.
Um, I hope everybody is doing okay. And I would say trying to deal with their own relationship with being in their own particular personal cave, relatively speaking. I have a few questions, and thanks very much for sending in some of these questions. I apologize if the questions get a little bit similar and I have to uh, engage with them in ways that some people have heard. Um, that's what questions are about. Um, the willingness to allow yourself to ask a question is not always up front and center. Uh, there's no question that seems simple or ridiculous. All questions are viable, and especially if you're reading and engaging with other things or anything actually, asking questions of yourself in terms of what you're engaging with is always beneficial to you. Asking the why of it. Why does this make sense to me? Is there any other way to look at it from my point of view? And if there is, fine. If there isn't, fine. Uh, but you're constructing internal a relationship with you as a person. Uh, Fundamentally, sometimes people think that that's already done when you become an adult. It isn't. As a matter of fact, stretching yourself in a number of directions is kind of counter to the idea of specialization that we've been involved with for the last quite a large number of years, especially since about the 40s. And even just a little bit before that, because people were cultivating various groups working on machinery for the war effort and all the rest of it. And this has continued on. And of course, technology has enabled us to do more of that. And it's an important thing to be okay with allowing yourself to be curious about various things. It opens up your mind. In the old traditions and some of our traditions, it seems that people think it closes your mind. You're not capable of being curious about a whole number of things. Vastly curious, as a matter of fact, just like a child. Um, Marie Jose asked basically a little bit about that in terms of she says, how do we reconcile what we aspire to in terms of maturity and what the Christian background says, or Christ seemed to have said, you can't enter into the kingdom of heaven unless we become like a child again. A child was never, maybe we'll look at it this way. When we look at a child, we see a small person. Uh, no offense to anybody who's small, but it means in our view, the child is learning and um, they're not old enough to make any sense whatsoever. So we adults take a look at that child and say, oh, well, they're just learning. Or if someone doesn't necessarily agree with us or we don't agree with them, and we call it childish, or we make some kind of reference to the great ability we have and the inability that others have. This, unfortunately, is a way that we've been doing business politically, economically, all the time. It's been around for a long period of time. And it means, really, basically, it's very hypocritical because we basically don't understand what the other person, where the other person's coming from, because we don't make inquiries. A child would make inquiries if they were curious. Uh, The Christian adage really was about moving past belief systems into a level of engagement with a higher state. Beyond what we believe we know, or beyond what we believe we've read, or other people have experienced, perhaps, or other people have said it should be this way, otherwise, if it's not like this, then it's not real. All of this is related primarily to thought that is considered viable based on agreement with others, perhaps. There is much thought that is not agreed upon, which is very interesting. As a matter of fact, so interesting that suspicion is that it's more viable than those things that are agreed upon, because some of that agreed upon stuff is makes us feel more comforted by ourselves. And that isn't negative, but it is a style of how we function in life. If you think about your own personality, and by the way, an investigation into that personality is a very ancient traditional formula. It didn't start last year, 10, 15, 20, 50 years ago. It has been going on forever. And the reason why it's been important is that, it sounds like a soliloquy, yes, I agree, but in terms of understanding deeper, a level of curiosity has to be cultivated. And also curiosity of why you think the way you think. Because in our world, our thinking process is usually defined by something you come up with, because that's all you can perceive. In the world of higher states, there is a kind of overshadowing of the mind, the emotions, and the body, all three. That's why I'm I don't really agree with people who say the body is really bad and this is a terrible thing. It has its quirks. It has its relationship with these planes right here, physical, emotional, and mental planes. And it also comes together, and it's called a personality. And there is a viability about personalities. Our personality is in a process of growth. But we don't understand what that means really basically. We think it means, from time to time, this will come up, your mind or your emotional mind, whatever you want to call it, will engage with a thought, which will lead to another, which will lead to another, which will lead to another, will lead to another, lead to another. And it's true. And then you'll come up with a causal relationship with all these pieces of information, and come up with an idea that is valued by you. Come up with a personality over the years that's valued by you. A way of living, a way of speaking, a way of engaging, a way of understanding, all legitimate. But it's a constructed form, legitimately constructed form of great value in these planes. Relative to these planes, it may not be of great value, but it's the only one you've got. So you have to allow yourself to emphasize it and then ask the question, or many questions, if you will. Why are my activities in these directions considered superior or valuable to me? One can say that. without negating the characteristics that you have, just noticing them. That is the act of a mind that's relating to being like a child because of the curiosity, the willingness, the real desire to be interested enough to wonder about why this happens and why that happens. You don't have to tell a single soul about the answers. You may not even be able to tell yourself about some of the answers. And it doesn't mean you have to go headlong into engaging with these internal inquiries every single second of your life. But what can be interesting is that you begin to posit an idea in your own mind, not in terms of the devaluation, but in terms of evaluation, where you're evaluating and wondering and knowing and recognizing that you have a response to certain things that you seem to really value. You could even call it overvalue. It's as if we are steeped in the idea of needing to protect ourselves, no matter what comes out of our engagement with others or with ourselves. Without that, we feel so vulnerable. And this makes sense. Literally, if you look at it, with the possibility that every individual on the planet does exactly the same thing. Thinking about that for a second or two, then wondering how you're responding right this second. And if you're not responding, then considering the possibility that the inquiry might be of some value. Now, what kind of value would it be? It's a really good question. Since I asked it, it's even better. If we're talking about the same kind of engagement that we were just talking about. But the truth is, if you inquire about that, you're actually going deeper than the reflexive surface that all of us are a part of. Now, the reason for this in the ancient times, for this internal quest, was the internal quest for a perception of something beyond the construction of the personality. This is very difficult. Sages used to do this all the time. Go get themselves into a cave someplace. Go over their life as far back as they could. They were looking for an internal vibration that related directly to something that was before their personality's version of who they were and what they were. It seems rather strange that a person would do this. But if they're in a cave all by themselves, if they were that way, because they had to be to do this, they would begin to realize there was no one else there to impress except themselves. And they would also know that they would even attempt to impress themselves because in the initial stages, they would think, what does a true sage do if they're going to do sagely things in a cave? How ridiculous does that sound? Well, when you get up in the morning and you get dressed, you engage the same direct way. What am I going to do today? What should I wear today? How should I do this? Why should I do that? Oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Well, you would not say it like I just said it. You would be more subtle and wiser, probably. But still, in your cave, your personality version of what you need to be you, inquiry internally is not the first thing. That's not negative. That's our training. If you were similar to other of us, 8 billion people on this planet, you would be considering how you would function in that day. Oh, you might have a list of things to do. You may not finish your list. You may not have a list of things. You just move into life, and life touches you, and you engage with it as it touches you. Many people do exactly this. And many people are aware they're doing it, and many people are not aware they're doing it. But let's get back to the energy thing. These sages did it for a perception of something. They were aching to perceive a relationship with that which made them up. In their world, it was in essence a flow of energy, a flow of consciousness. Some began to realize that they were energy. They were consciousness. Others were as well, just not aware that they were. They realize that engaging with others, they knew that others didn't know. And here was the reason why. There was a flow of energy that came into them as they had been in for maybe 10 years of isolation. They could perceive in and through them better because they were aware and they carried their cave with them wherever they went after they left. If they lost their cave, they began to be like everybody else, but they carried their cave with them. They were aware around them, in them, through them. Anything that they impacted upon, they were a translucent being where they could perceive energy moving in and through them from another. They knew exactly where that other was in relationship to his or her relationship with knowing inside that universality. It was not about being superior or inferior or somewhere along a continuum. They knew the continuum existed from the coarser through the middle planes into the higher states. They could perceive the emanation from another, not only with their eyes, not only with their ears, not only with their sensing mechanism, as we would say, let's touch that table, but because that person was emanating in them and they were in them. The focus was not on the personality of that individual, but it was on the engaging aspect that related to higher states. Clarify a little bit. The energy that came through those Zephyroth chakras, whatever you want to call them, those flow valves that constantly sent energy into this form so that there was enough energy there to enable a little child to use that reflexively on these coarser planes and learn about the world from their parental background, learn about the world from watching other people do their thing, and ultimately hold their satisfied view of what they needed to be like, and they would usually be similar to somebody, because that's a natural tendency. It's not negative, it's natural. We all do it, relatively speaking. Similar to somebody and walk around as that image, and the utilization of those energies and the coarseness or the subtleness of those energies would transmit into that sage's form. They would understand where that individual was. And if indeed it was possible, emanation from that flow that operates through the sage would touch that individual's energy where they could be helped to grow a little faster, but not hurt them. The personality of the sage was not in, let's say, it was in the cave, but it wasn't consciously thinking of itself. It was perceiving, watching, non-interference personally with that form that was in them, but the energy was coming in relative to the form's capability, someone's personality that was in them, of being able to handle a little bit more and use it for, let's say, the good of a constructed form that that individual might be able to ultimately have, so that it could handle higher state energy consciously, not just only reflexively. And that's my opinion. It's an opinion, you don't have to agree with me. Thinking, in my opinion, that was the engagement that the Christian orientation was involved with, but also Hindu and Buddhist orientations as well. All others that were engaged with the ideal of engaging with highest states, which covers almost every single belief system that there is relative to either metaphysics or religious background, or even sciences in terms of creativity, arts in terms of creativity. How can I be better? I'm not gonna, and practice, and suddenly, I'm better. How can I figure out this idea? Image comes to mind. The mind is involved with another idea it never had before. Creativity. We have words for everything. But also a link up with another state for a few seconds that enables the person to allow their own mental structure, one could say, to align and perceive something that might be truly helpful with respect to the goal that that individual had at that particular moment. There's no negation in this orientation of relationship with higher states, except we, wondrous as we are, have views that we consider less than personal views. If we only could understand that those particular views are their courtesy of how we have prepared to cultivate a personality, courtesy of that, courtesy of perhaps even some creativity on our part, meaning our receptivity to perception beyond perhaps what we've had for the last hour or two, 10, 15 years. And then we have another idea, almost superimposed, but we don't like that language. So we came up with another idea. We like that language. That means we are okay with us. And no one is telling us what we should think or do or whatever. A mature adult might look at that and say this. I said, this is an opinion, but it definitely is that. And say this. I have no idea what that would mean. I wonder what it could be. And an idea comes into your mind. We like the idea of saying, oh, that's your unconscious telling us exactly how things are. And here's an idea. Try that one on. But it's really coming from you. You weren't really thinking about it. It just popped in. So therefore, it's part of you. Well, could be. Also could be, you might have picked that up from ideas that might be relative to 8 billion people out of the collective. Carl Jung would say, collective unconscious, an idea formulated, maybe someone else had it, you just were aware of it and you were able to perceive it and you had a little link up with the collective unconscious. Yeah, sure, could be that. It's language and it's words and how we define things. Yeah, fine. Or it may be an actual link up where the personality says to itself, if I'm to get an idea from another state, I have to try out my own ideas first. This is an old construct of the creative mind. You can read about that. And I'll try all my ideas out first. Okay. Oh, geez, I didn't know I had 7. Sorry, I had many more, but no, maybe only 7. Now I don't have a single one. All my logic has disappeared. All my wondrous capability has disappeared. Let me see if I can pull away from that and see if an idea can come into my mind. Oh, gee, there's that unconscious again. Anyway, I'll say, come into my mind from another level of mind. Not saying anyone would have that, but possible ache, the hope that you have it, one could say. And therefore, an idea will come into your mind. If you do have a little relationship with life, you know that if you're highly intense, emotionally, you can't think. The emotion is so strong in your mind and in your body, your nervous system. I can't get this. You're not going to get the idea right there. Too much emotion. And you're vulnerable, you're putting yourself down, or you're putting the concept down because you can't figure it out. I mean, we have really good strategies. And suddenly you say, I'll let that go. It's on my mind. And suddenly an idea pops into your mind over a period of time or in 10 seconds. The idea comes into your mind, and some of you may know that it's separate from you. To get to that place where you know it's different in your own way of looking at things, then the actual idea, you didn't cultivate that. You didn't get to it through your own logic. But since it's in this little box up here, it's yours. So you may say, oh, I have an idea, blah, 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 blah. There's an idea. Or it may be another opinion that came into your mind. Might be even a good one. But here's another way. You pull back, you watch it come into your mind, you watch it expand, you watch it make sense. You ask in a kind of a way, I wonder if that would work. This is all in the quiet of you, silence of you, your personalized silence. And you know the difference between when that happens and when you figure stuff out. That's the level of engagement that some of these sages were looking for. And that's what we look for in our relationship with spiritual growth. However, what we deal with is ourselves. And there is nothing wrong with that dealing. But the question was, what does maturity look like? Well, maturity looks like knowing, being okay with having a different level of mind and this level of mind, and knowing the difference. Some things you can figure out, other things you can't quite, and there is a kind of superimposition, superimposed idea, not an ideal. These ideas can come from one extreme to the other. Yes, they can work through the emotional disposition too. Yes, they can work through the body as well. Those are intercepts, literally, with other states of consciousness, where we tend to glorify these states. And of course, we sometimes glorify others, or we negate them really badly because they're able to connect with some of these things. And every interaction that every individual has with these can be slightly different. The pathway into one pathway, one could say, into a relationship with higher states is the use of energy related to higher states. So getting to know that it's part of your engagement with existence, that energy that's in you, essence in you, call it what you want, and it's perceivable. The dilemma is our perception levels are fairly slow. Our emotional mind and intellectual minds are very quick. Our reflexes, fantastically fast. They've had to be that way all through the development of the human structure so that it can survive. We even stand up on 2 feet. We can run, move fast, have quick reflexes, pick up tools, engage with others. You can read about those too. But the actual question or the actual quest for an experience is very vital. Normally, and you can talk about this and engage with this when you're talking to yourself, I suppose. If you have not got the experience, not had the experience that someone else has, then you can call their experience not as real. This is a natural tendency for us. Doesn't mean it's true, but it's a natural tendency for us. And what you're attempting to do in relationship to engaging with higher states, one could say, is to have an experience, even for 10 seconds, of a state that's different than the one you're normally used to. And that particular experience will make you nervous because you're not used to it. And we defend against those things that we're kind of not used to. Now, fine, it's sometimes not a major defense. With ideas, though, there can be a lot of major defenses that come up in an instant. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you're well defended. You like your ideas better than anybody else's. That's all. And this is the relationship that we have with each other, all 8 billion people of us. But those sages, they carried their energy cave with them. Now, it's not for everybody. And there's good reason for that. But it is for everyone in relationship to ultimate growing. Everyone has the right to have that flowing experience in them and to keep quiet about it. Because no one's going to believe you anyway. Or it'll all be in a head response and a mouth response. You're more important, they're more important, all the rest of that stuff that goes with it. So as you grow, learning how to engage with people who will not negate that is smart. I don't know how mature that is, but it's smart. Because there's no end point in this. It's continual learning. Continuous. You move through one stage of growth. It may be tremendously huge into another, which is totally different. But preparation for one stage and in gaining access to at least a partial aspect of a stage is preparation for the next stage. Vulnerability is of great value, but it has to remain subtle so that it doesn't overcome you. And you're not vulnerable all the time because it's hard to live honestly within you if you're vulnerable all the time. It brings up all the fear that you have, the anger, the frustration, the response, the defense responses that are there. And they're most often always subtle, but they become less subtle. And it hurts. And when you focus on hurting, energy comes in to align with and comply with what your focus is. This is really not something we need, but it's something we get. It's part of the living process. Learning how to soften that down, the energy comes in to try and comply with the softening as well. But your reactions to that is to lean into what you did before because it's more comforting. So you can see internal growing is a slow movement, but a valid one. We're often goal-oriented in our world. Spiritual growth is not goal-oriented. It's experiential, yes, I agree with that, but it's soft, slow, easy. That's why meditation is so profound. Prayer has been really effective forever. Mantras have been tremendously used by everyone. I don't care who you are. You may not see them as mantras, but the Lord's Prayer in a Christian background, 23rd Psalm, even some of the ways you engage with yourself literally I'm not going to do this today. I'm not going to do that today. I'm not going to do that today. I'm not going to do that. These are kind of mantras. If there is one thing common amongst all engagements with higher states, is that it moves beyond the personalizations. What has to be true, otherwise you're not spiritual. It moves beyond that. Yet it doesn't negate that. It's a tremendous level of depth, compassion, love, you could call that. And at the same time, it brings out some of the vulnerability that we have when we're talking about, oh my gosh, I'm not measuring up. No one measures up. It's not a measure up thing. It's an understanding. It's a calming down thing so that you can actually be aware that that's there. For example, everyone listening, I don't care who you are. If you are truly listening just for a few seconds, you have calmed down inside because your focus in whole Chinese orientation, your focus is on the listening, not on the dialogue that goes on to respond. If you have one single response, your attention is on the response. And that validates you in 1 second. That's where the energy goes. Because you need the reassurance that you're okay with your ideas. Ideas are only ideas. And they help you make sense of a little thing according to what you think might be true. Question is, do you believe in that idea that you think is true? Have you ever questioned it? You don't have to, but you can. Negation is not the goal. Understanding, perceiving how you consider things, being okay with that, and realizing there can be a broadening even in that, wherever you are, is a very valuable piece of equipment. It's a tool that you can use in your life. You don't have to only validate the images that you've already constructed or the beliefs that you hang your hat on to be valued as a person with that particular kind of hat. But we all do the same things, relatively speaking, in different places. Do you like the color green? Do you like the color blue? Do you like the color violet? Do you like the color this? We hang our kind of clothing hats on these things. But also, we look at other people and what they do. And if we learn a schema that says this color is better than that color, then we go by our schema because that's what we think we believe. There's no reason in the world to think that that might be true. Every color may be on a continuum from the coarser to the more subtle. And in that case, if you are involved with this particular color, you could be in a coarse relationship with it, and every other color is lousy. In a softer, subtler realm of that frequency, it blends and engages with every other color, and every color knows at that level that it is really one and the same. Nurturing our nature while we're inquiring about it allows us not to negate our natures, allows us not to negate our inquiry. The one thing that's consistent in all levels of growth is continuance, blending towards oneness. That's what oneness means, blend, as opposed to this versus that. That's us. And as a matter of fact, it's not negative, but it, boy, does cause some problems sometimes. Deeper levels of understanding are related to the energy that lies within another for a purpose that moves beyond the personalizations through a state blending as opposed to a state separation. When I say state, I'm talking about levels of consciousness here, obviously. I was just looking at my watch, make sure I answered that. Do I have anything else to add for Marie's question? Let's see. No, I think I've covered most of the things that I had hoped to cover. There's been so many questions about COVID and the dilemmas that it presents. And there are dilemmas that it presents for sure. But also, think of the little bit of a story that I told you about these sages. They learned how to carry their cave, their energetic cave, with them. And what that meant was, I'll use this word again, kind of hyphenated, was that wherever they went, they tended to bump up those around them. Now, here are the reactions of a bump up. People get more annoyed. If they have a balanced relationship with the flavor that they use or the way they function in the world, there's an intensity that is stimulated where the need is in the individual to open a chakra or sephirot, or any other name you want to call them, part of the soul mechanism, one could say, if you believed in soul or self, so that more energy could come in for the purpose of broadening an understanding of the world towards what it is as opposed to what you believe it has to be. Because you value it that way, meaning you value yourself for believing that. This is very difficult to understand this. Because mixed with that, one could say that if we were sitting around on a street corner and the sage walks by, you would have no awareness that this individual is a sage. The one that I always remember in a meeting was meeting this young woman as we came out of a James Taylor concert, Marlene and I. And she had a terrible time dealing with how to live in the coarser world. She had a sheet on and she was begging for money, but that was a secondary thing she was doing. She was transmitting energy out of her chest, out of her brow, out of her crown, out of her throat, and spreading it through the thousands of people who are leaving to go home, and they were trying to duck her. Get out of the way. Don't want to give them any money. That could be for drugs or anything. She didn't much care about that. The issue was that she had her, one could say, energy cave all around her, and she was out of the way of judging these people for not giving her any money. That didn't matter. And the energy, the higher state flow was coming into her and through her for the betterment of others where they were in their life so that they could be bumped up a little bit. Probably took them about a month to get over that, meaning they were a little gruffer or a little bit softer or a little bit this way or that way, other than what they were before. That to me is the most beautiful thing I could have ever noticed in the world. I just got lucky and happened to notice that. And she basically happened to notice that I was noticing, because that goes in to her system and she goes into mine, and she was perceiving that, knowing. That's how it tends to work. So one could say, why would a person, why is it important to meet that kind of a person? As a matter of fact, Toshi asked that very important question, and I think we still have time to touch on that. It's important because if two people meet and there's 1,000 people around and they both are out of the way, then more energy can come in to more people in a subtler way than her and I personally could ever manage. And I just got lucky. I got bumped up by her. So because of the bump up, and it had happened before, so that I knew what it was, I just tried to watch the best I could and not do anything other than just be. So, number one, personality had nothing to do with it whatsoever. Absolutely nothing. She wasn't interested in having her personality do anything. She was a veteran of that, but not very able to do very much in her life, personally. She was just a young person. People of that ilk help us. And as you become a little bit more able, and that can begin to happen, you start to notice, yeah, you can turn the center on. Whoa, I'm great because I can turn the center now. But have you learned how to pull away and let that flow operate on its own? That's much more difficult because of the natural response you have to being able to do something slightly different. That natural response it elevates you, and we're used to that. That means if you can go out and you can jump 5 feet off the ground, you're superior to all others who can't. That's real in the coarser levels. It's not real in those other levels. Yes, you can engage that way. You can learn how to do that stuff. That's part of learning how not to do it. But that's against everything that we're taught on these planes. If you don't make your mark on these planes, we're taught, relatively speaking, then what are you worth? Well, it's one attitude. And it affects us because it's in everything we've done, from school from the breakfast table to the dining room table, if you had one, kitchen table, family tables, peer tables, sports, all the way through on your job, everything. And this is the way it works here. Therefore, we have to partake in that, relatively speaking. To do both, to learn how to do both, is the maturing of an adult human being. We're young yet. Doesn't mean we're bad. We're young. Means we like to be older before we're able to be older. We like to be more valid than anybody else. That means we're like in young ages. When you were 15, 16, 17, you thought you knew more stuff than your parental background did. They had more experience, but yeah, so what? You knew more. Wasn't real. And as you got a little older, you began to realize it wasn't as real as what you thought anyway. Unless you were one of these unfortunate people who really did know more and were more able. Then you had to come to grips with yourself and learn that that's what you had to do. There's no devaluation in these things. There's more trying to understand, trying to make sense of things, be okay with you, and continue. I do wish everybody is safe and continues to be so. And I do wish also to thank everybody who sent some questions in, and you can always send more in too. We have a seminar coming up, and don't forget to register if you feel like you'd like to. And we're just going to meditate. Take care, everybody. Good talking to you.
शक्त्यायुक्तो यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुम् न चेदेवं देवं न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुमपि अतस्त्वाम् आराध्याम् हरिहरं विरिञ्चादिभिरपि रणतुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृत् पुण्यः प्रभवति अविद्यानाम् अन्तस्तिमिरमिहिर द्वीपनगरी जडानां चैतन्यस्तबकं मकरन्द श्रुतिझरी दरिद्राणां चिन्तामणि गुणनिका जन्मजलधौ निमग्नानां दंष्ट्रा मुररिपु वराहस्य भवति त्वदन्यः पाणिभ्याम् अभय वरदो दैवतः गणः त्वमेका नैवासि प्रकटित वराभीत्य भिनया भयात्रातुं दातुं फलमपि च वाञ्छा समधिकम् शरण्ये लोकानां तव हि चरणं वेव निपुणम् धनुः पुष्पम् मौर्विमधुकर मयि पञ्च विशिखा वसन्तः सामन्तो मलय मरुदायो धनरथ तथापेकः सर्वं हिमिकिरिसुते कामपि कृपा अपाङ्गास्ते लब्ध्वा जगदिद मनङ्गो विजयते सुधा सिन्धो मध्ये सुरविटपि वाटी परिवृते मणिद्वीपे नीपोपवनवती चिन्तामणि गृहे शिवाकारे मञ्चे परमशिव पर्यङ्कनिलया भजन्ति त्वां धन्या कतिचन चिदानन्द लहरी मही मूलाधार कमपि मणिपुरे उत वः स्थितं स्वाधिष्ठाने हृदि मरुतमाकाशमुपरि मनोऽपि भ्रूमध्ये सकलमपि भित्त्वा कुलपथम् सहस्रारे पद्मे सह रहसि पत्या विहरसि चतुर्भिः श्रीकण्ठे शिवयुवतिभिः पञ्चभिरपि प्रभिन्नाभिः शम्भोः नवभिरपि मूलप्रकृतिभिः चतुश्चत्वारिंशत् वसुधर कराश्र त्रिवलय त्रिरेखाभिः सार्धं तव चरणकोणा परिणता त्वदीयं सौन्दर्यं तुहिन गिरिकन्ये तुलयितुम् कवीन्द्राः कल्पन्ते कथमपि विरिञ्चि प्रभृतयः यदा लोकौ सुख्यात् अमरललना यान्ति मनसा तपोभिः दुष्प्रापामपि गिरिश सायुज्य पदवी कवीन्द्राणां चेतः कमल वनपालातक रुचिं भजन्ते ये सन्तः कतिचित् अरुणा मे भवति विरिञ्चि प्रियस्या करुणतर शृङ्गार लहरी गभीराभिः वाग्भिः विदधति सतां रञ्जनं ममी सवित्रीभिर्वाचा शशिमणि शीलाभङ्ग रुचिभिः वशिन्यां द्याति त्वां सह जननी सञ्चिन्तयति यः सकर्ता काव्यानां भवति महतां भङ्गि रुचिभिः वचोभिः वाग्देवी वदन कमला मोद मधुरै मुखं बिन्दुं कृत्वा उचयुगम् अधस्तस्य तदधो हरार्धं ध्यायेद्यो हरमहिषी मन्मथ कला ससद्यः संक्षोभं नयति वनिता इत्यतिलघु त्रिलोकीमप्याशु भ्रमयति रविन्दु स्तनयुगा शिवः शक्तिः कामः क्षिति रथ रविः शीतकिरणः स्मरो हंसश्चक्र तदनु च परामार हरयः हमीर्लेखाभिः तिसृभिः अवसानेषु घटिता भजन्ते वर्णास्ते तव जननी नामावय वताम् गतैर्माणिक्यत्वं गगनं मणिभिः सान्द्रघटितम् किरीटं ते हैमन् हिमगिरिसुते कीर्तयति यः समीरे यच्छायां च रणशबलं चन्द्रशकरम् धनु शौना सीरं किमिति न निबध्नाति धीषणा ललाटं लावण्य द्युतिविमलम् आभाति तव द्वितीयं तन्मन्ये मुकुट घटितं चन्द्रशकलम् विपर्यासि न्यासात् उभयम् अपि सम्भूय च मिथः सुधारे पश्येतिः परिणम् इति रागा हिमकरः भ्रुवोर्मुग्नी किञ्चित् भुवनं भयभङ्ग व्यसनिः त्वदीये नेत्राभ्याम् मधुकर रुचिभ्याम् धृतगुणम् धनुर्मन्ये सवेतरकर गृहीतम् रतिपतेः प्रकोष्ठे मुष्टौ च स्थगयति निगूढां तरमुमे सूते सव्यम् तव नयनम् अर्कात्मकतया प्रिया मां वामन्ते विजति रजनी नायकतया द्वितीयाति दृष्टिः दरदलित इमा भुजरुचिः समाधत्ते सन्ध्या दिवसनिशयोः अन्तरचरी विशाला कल्याणी स्फुटरुचिः अयोध्याकवलयैः कृपाधारा धारा किमपि मधुरा भोगवतिका भवन्ति दृष्टिस्ते बहुनगर विस्तार विजय ध्रुवं तत्तः नाम व्यवहरण योग्या विजयते कवीनां सन्दर्भस्तप्त मकरन्दैक रसिकाम् कटाक्ष व्याक्षेप भ्रमरा कलभो कर्णयुगलम् अमुच्यन्ता दृष्ट्वा तव नव रसास्वाद तरलम् असूया संसर्गात् अलिकनयनम् किञ्चित् तरुणम् तदितरजनी उत्सनपरा सरोषां गङ्गायां गिरिशं चरिते विस्मयवती हराहिभ्यो भीता सरसिरुहा सौभाग्य जननी सखीषु स्मिराति मयि जननी दृष्टिः सकरुणा गते कर्णाभ्यर्णं गरुतम् इव पक्ष्माणि दधति पुराम्भेतुः चित्तः प्रशमरस वित्रावणहरे इमे नेत्रे गोत्राधरपति कुलोत्तम सकलिके तवाकर्णाकृष्ण स्मरशर विलासं कलयतः विभक्त त्रैवर्ण्यं व्यतिकरित लीलाञ्जन तया विभाति त्वन्नेत्र त्रितयमिदम् ईशान दयिते पुनः स्रष्टुं देवा द्रहिणा हरिरुद्रा उपरताम् रजः सत्त्वं बिभ्रत्तमम् इति गुणानां त्रयमेव पवित्रीकर्तुं नहं पशुपति पराधीन हृदये दयामित्रैः नेत्रैः अरुणं धवल श्याम रुचिभिः नदः शोणो गङ्गा तपन तनयेति ध्रुवमम त्रयाणां तीर्थानाम् उपनयसि सम्भेद मनः निमेषो ईशाभ्यां प्रलयमुदयं याति जगति तवेत्याह सन्तो धरणीधर राजन्य तनये त्वदुन्मेषां जातं जगदिदम् अशेषं प्रलयतः परित्रातुं शङ्के परिहृत निमेषास्तव दृशः सरस्वत्या लक्ष्म्या विधिहरिः सपत्नो विहरति रते पातिव्रत्यं शिथिलयति रम्येण वपुषा चिरं जीवन्नेव क्षपिता पशुपाश व्यतिकरः परानन्दां भिक्षां रसयति रसं त्वद्भजनवान्
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.